right, so set that up kind of straight. So I've been thinking about creating videos. I've ran over dozens of times in my head this conversation that I'm about to share aloud in my head, and it happened a few weeks ago. I was going to make a video on it at the time, but for whatever reason it just didn't happen. And so this happened a few weeks ago. I scheduled a beard trim and a haircut, and I go in there, and the barber doesn't really, I got the vibe he didn't really expect an appointment, even though I was the first one in the morning and I confirmed it the day before. Either way, he gives me the haircut and he pulls out his card. He pulled out his like card reader, and he's like, "Oh, cash your card." And I'm like, "Oh, I scheduled a beard trim too." And he was kind of caught off guard by that. So he gives me a beard trim, pay him $45, and I give him a $10 tip. So I give him $55, and I leave and I go to my car to check out my haircut and my beard trim, and I notice there's like 10 or 15 hairs on my neck that he just did not cut. So I'm like, oh shoot, I have to go home and trim them. And I'm feeling around my beard, and there's like a bunch of beard hair still in my beard that he did not get out. So I'm like, great, there's like a bunch of beard hair in my hair, and I have to shave my neck. So that kind of sucks. I'll go home, and my girlfriend was like, "Have you seen the back of your head?" And I was like, "No." So she takes a photo, shows me the photo, and my hair is like lopsided. Like he cut my hair so one part of my head is heavier than the other side, so it's like crooked essentially. And she's like, "Have you seen the sides of your ears?" And I was like, "No." So she takes another photo of my ears, and the hair above my ears on either side of my head is misaligned. So I'm like, great. Not only did this guy mess up my beard, but he also messed up my haircut. So I'm gonna have to get another haircut. And I was gonna leave like a 3-star review on Yelp, and I rarely leave reviews on Yelp. I've only left, for the most part, only positive reviews. And so, I was pretty irritated by it, but 3-star review, whatever. But my girlfriend was like, "Oh, you should call and get your money back, ask for a refund." And I was like, okay. So give him a call, and he's like, "Okay, the barber's not in today, but you can come by and get your money tomorrow." So I'm like, okay, great, I'll be there between like 11 and 4. And hang up. I go in there the next day, and I'll rewind a little bit, but I was really nervous to go in because in my head I was creating all of these scenarios that he was gonna contest my refund, or be like, "Oh dude, like your hair's not that bad," or like, "Yeah, I'll just cut it, but I'm not gonna give you a refund." Or I was thinking that he was only going to give me the $45 back and keep the 10. And in my head, I was creating this scenario in my head. I'm like, okay, if he gives me the full $55 back, I will give him the $10 tip, for being honest, right? But if he only gives me 45 back, I'm going to ask, where's my other 10 at? Or I was going to go make a 1-star review on Yelp, right? I was creating all of these scenarios in my head, and like scenarios about like him confronting me because I'm really scared of confrontation. I'm a pretty non-confrontational guy. So I was, kind of nervous to go in there, but I already said I'm going in, and it's like $55 and my hair is fucked up. So I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet, even if I look like a fool going in there. It was my first time going into that barber, the last time going in there. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna go in on my lunch break. So I go in, and the barber's not in there. The barber who cut my hair is not in the shop. And so I speak to the guy who I initially called to ask for my refund. He's like, oh yeah, like the barber had to step out, but he left you the money. And he walks over to his barber setup, lifts up a towel, and there's my $55. And I'm like, oh my God, like that was easy. And so, the guy who was in there was being apologetic on the barber's behalf and saying, oh, we all have bad days. We try to, rectify our mistakes. We can always, cut your hair and fix it. I'm like, no, it's okay. I'll just take the money. I appreciate it though. I'm on my lunch break. And so I leave. And I was gonna open up my car door, and I was thinking like, I should go back in there and like give him some feedback, because if I was the barber, I would want to know how to do better. He probably doesn't get calls asking for a refund, so he probably feels a little bit ashamed, a little bit hurt. And so I go back in there and I tell the barber to relay, just some feedback for him, so he can do better next time. And I did that, and I felt, a little bit better afterwards, driving back home, or, driving back to work. But I was sitting on it, and I realized that all those scenarios in my head, I was living in fear. Like, I was scared of the confrontation, but it didn't happen. The barber was not in there. And when I walked in, I had this and I didn't see the barber when I walked in, I had this kind of sigh of relief. And then when the barber said, oh yeah, the barber's not in here, he stepped out, I was like, like, wow, that feels good. And it made me think like, damn, I live my life in like fear, essentially. Like I'm scared. I'm living in this like anxiety and this doubt with scenarios that don't even happen. Like I was fearing something that did not happen, but I was fearing it as if it did happen. And it just made me think like, wow, I need to step back and really assess what is reality and what are my feelings, and just try to kind of reprogram myself so I'm not living in that state of fear, so I'm not creating these scary scenarios that don't even happen in real life. Like I'm living as if they will happen, and it's exhausting, it's tiresome to do that. And especially when it doesn't happen. But it gives you a sigh of relief when it doesn't happen. And so that experience is, it's a relatively minor one, going in, getting a haircut, asking for a refund for an objectively messed up service it's an okay thing to do. And I think I just didn't feel kind of justified in that. I didn't have that conviction. But, the product spoke, like the service spoke for itself. It was a messed up haircut, but there's no question asked about the service. They just automatically gave me the refund. I didn't have to defend myself or anything, and I was creating these scenarios where I did have to defend myself. And I realize now that I don't have to do that. I don't have to live in that perpetual state of fear and anxiety and doubt that clouds the present and makes the present kind of miserable and tiresome. So that's what I wanted to share. That's the story that I wanted to tell my phone, my channel. And I guess it felt a little bit more impactful when it first happened. but I've sat on it for a few weeks, and now it seems, now the intensity of that story is kind of quelled. But I still just wanted to say the story, because that was the very first thing that I wanted to post or to talk about, was that story. And so I just wanted to follow through with that, even if it's, you know, a relatively minor story or silly or whatever. You know, I just want to do it because I thought to myself, I said to myself I was going to do it, and I rehearsed this more than 24 times. So thank you for listening.